up, guys? LQ here with the LQ Review. Thank you so much for joining me right here at my YouTube channel. This is where we talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that we love to talk about. Movies, video games, comic books, and TV shows. And right now, I'd like to talk about the movies that made us Season 2, I guess, right? Some people are calling it Season 3 because some people are counting the holiday movies that made us as Season 2. But I'm going to call it Season 2. Let's call it Season 2. All right, and let's call the holiday movies that made us like a spin-off. So the movies that made us Season 2 included Back to the Future, Pretty Woman, Jurassic Park, and Forrest Gump. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I love this series. I love this series and the Toys That Made Us. I love both of them. I wish we'd get another Toys That Made Us season. But I'm going to rank the 4 episodes from Season 2 from worst to best. So let's get going. Number 4 is, for me, Forrest Gump. Now, I love Forrest Gump. I think it's a great movie. It's a great movie. But for me, Forrest Gump came out at a time where I was old enough that I wouldn't necessarily call Forrest Gump a movie that made me. You know, it's not a movie that's responsible for my fandom. It's a good movie. It's a movie that I like. And this episode definitely gave me some insight that I didn't know about the making of Forrest Gump. But I wouldn't call it a movie that had to be on this list. It was just a nice surprise. It was a nice episode. I enjoyed watching the episode, but it wasn't like this nostalgic movie that made me, as the title suggests. So that's why it's number 4. All right, number 3. Number 3 is Pretty Woman. Now, I have memories of watching this when my parents were watching it when I was a kid. Like, I was an older kid, but I was still a kid when this came out. And I have memories of my parents watching it and me kind of, doing what kids do and sneaking in and watching what mom and dad are watching. I did not care for this movie when I was younger. And let's face it, it's not the type of movie that kids are going to, gravitate towards. As an adult, I definitely respect the impact that it's had on pop culture, and I respect where it sits in the history of film. So again, I wouldn't call this a movie that made me. This is just a movie that I respect it for what it is. So that's number 3. All right, number 2 is Jurassic Park. Now, Jurassic Park is a movie that is largely responsible for my fandom. I was 12 years old when this came out in theaters, and I remember just being in awe at what this movie was. I remember my science teacher, Mr. Fent, he talked about this movie in class when it was getting ready to come out, and the science behind it, and I was fascinated. I was fascinated by it. And my parents took me to see it, and the greatest scene in that movie, for me, is when Alan and Ellie and Malcolm see that brontosaurus for the first time. And they see it. They do move in herds. You know, the feeding on the tree. And I still get chills. I still get goosebumps when Hammond says, "Dr. Grant, my dear Dr. Sadler, welcome to Jurassic Park." Man, what kind of chills does that give me? I mean, it's one of the great lines in Hollywood history for me. And this episode definitely taught me some new stuff about the making of Jurassic Park that I didn't know. And that's what I look for in this type of thing. Number 1, help me revisit the nostalgia of my past. Number 2, teach me something. And Jurassic Park definitely did that. But number 1 is the episode on Back to the Future. Back to the Future is also one of those movies that turned me on to movies as a kid. I watched Back to the Future as a kid. I don't know, there's just something about it that captured my childhood imagination. Traveling through time, the cool car, I mean, it just, all of it, like I said, sparked that creativity and it sparked that imagination for me. and there's a lot in this episode that I didn't know. I had no idea that it was once going to be called what they say, the spaceman from Pluto. Like, that just doesn't make sense. Like, did that executive that suggested Spaceman from Pluto even read the script? I don't know. But Back to the Future is one of those movies for me that, like, I remember hearing that Back to the Future 2 and 3 were going to come out, and I was just beside myself. And when we went to see Back to the Future Part 2, I remember at the end of the movie when they had the preview for Back to the Future 3, I was just jaw on the ground. Just I love those movies, but you know, especially Part 1. Part 1 is very special to me. So that's how I would rank the 4 episodes from Season 2 of the movies that made us. How would you rank them? Let me know in the comments down below. While you're down there commenting, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I put out a lot of content. I want to make sure that you're up to date with what I'm doing. And as always, thank you so much for joining me right here at the LQ Review, where we get to talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that we love to talk about. Until next time, we'll see you later.